Welcome to James Joyce's divine and delirious comedy Finnegans Wake. In this episode, number 27, we'll hear Irish-Canadian actor and my good friend and colleague Richard Harte performing pages 119 to 123 from Chapter 5 of Joyce's last novel. I'm Adam Seelig, the director of the reading you'll soon hear. Will you be in Toronto on Tuesday, August 11th? If so, join us at the Winchester Street Theatre for a very special live taping of Book 2, Chapter 1 of Finnegans Wake. For more details and to reserve a seat, please visit One Little Goat Theatre Company's website at www.onelittlegoat.org. Finnegans Wake is a production of One Little Goat Theatre Company. One Little Goat is filming and recording all 17 chapters, roughly 30 hours, of Joyce's Finnegans Wake before live audiences in various locations, screening and releasing them along the way with the aim of completing the entire book for its 90th birthday, May 4th, 2029. One Little Goat Theatre Company is an official charity in Canada and the United States. To help us produce this first-of-its-kind filmed reading series, of which we've filmed 8 chapters so far with 9 more to go, please visit onelittlegoat.org to make a charitable donation. Your donation enables us to bring this production to audiences and helps support the outstanding artists who make it possible. To be the first to hear about our live tapings, events, and screenings, please join our mailing list, also at onelittlegoat.org. The Book of Kells is, with all due respect to the works of James Joyce, Ireland's greatest literary treasure. An illuminated Celtic manuscript of the Gospels that dates back over 1,000 years, the Book of Kells was found, after being stolen and stripped of its gold-crusted case, in a pile of dirt. This medieval theft and discovery is recounted in the medieval Irish chronicle known as the Annals of Ulster, which describes the Book of Kells being found, quote, under a sod, much like the Ardagh Chalice mentioned earlier in Chapter 5 of Finnegans Wake. Of course, this is all highly reminiscent of the letter at the heart of this chapter, found by Belinda the hen in a heap of litter. 100 years ago, Sir Edward Sullivan published his scholarly paean to the magnificent Book of Kells. Sullivan's publication, which included photographic plates of the illuminated medieval manuscript, became one of James Joyce's favorite books. As Joyce wrote to his friend Arthur Power, "In all the places I have been to, Rome, Zurich, Trieste, I have taken it about with me and have pored over its workmanship for hours. It is the most purely Irish thing we have, and some of the big initial letters which swing right across a page have the essential quality of a chapter of Ulysses." Never short on ambition, Joyce wanted Finnegans Wake to be his Book of Kells, stylistically singular and instantly recognizable by any page. As he wrote to Power, quote, "Indeed, you can compare much of my work to the intricate illuminations of the Book of Kells. I would like it to be possible to pick up any page of my book and know at once what book it is." In today's excerpt, our literary letter, this incomplete missive discovered on a dirty tea-stained scrap of paper, this, if you'll allow me a little Yiddish, this bissel of an epistle, will receive the Book of Kells treatment a la Edward Sullivan. Here is Sir Edward's full-throated appreciation for Ireland's glorious manuscript. Its weird and commanding beauty, its subdued and godless coloring, the baffling intricacy of its fearless designs, the clean, unwavering sweep of rounded spiral, the creeping undulations of serpentine forms that writhe in artistic profusion through the mazes of its decorations, the strong and legible minuscule of its text, the quaintness of its striking portraiture, the unwearied reverence and patient labor that brought it into being, all of which combined go to make up the Book of Kells, have raised this ancient Irish volume to a position of abiding preeminence among the illuminated manuscripts of the world. This is the wondrous tone that the Wake will adopt, and of course parody, in today's excerpt, which scrutinizes practically every letter in the letter with tremendous enthusiasm. As the Sullivan-esque analysis will urge us at one point, quote, Look at this. It will also introduce all kinds of symbols and sigla to represent our protagonists, HCE and ALP, and their children and environment. So lively is this description of the various letters and sigla of the letter that I think of today's excerpt as a dance of the letters. Some of my favorite moments include ALP represented as a triangle or delta, a most fitting symbol for our river-running female protagonist. The letter W described scatologically as a seated tuchus, quote, flop right down. And the confusion of the letters P and K, resulting in, quote, thence your Christopher Columbus, hence our cat Presbyterians, close quote, instead of Christopher Columbus and Pat Presbyterians. This swap of letters P and K might at first appear simply playful, or perhaps I should say clayful, but as is always the case with the wake, it points to so much more. In this case, the PK split, also known as the PQ split in the history of the Celtic language. The wake plays with this PK motif throughout the novel, so I'll take a moment to describe it. Roughly 3,000 years ago, Celtic language pronunciations went in two directions. The Irish and Scots inclined toward K or Q or hard C enunciations, while the Welsh and Cornish took to P as their plosive of preference. This elocutionary difference can still be found today in, for example, traditional Celtic names, where the Irish use Mac with a hard C to mean son of in a traditional surname like MacDonald or McDonnell, i.e. son of Donnell. The Welsh use Map with a P to signify son of, such as Map Rhys, i.e. son of Rhys, which evolved into Ap Rhys, which in turn evolved into today's Price or Price. For those wanting to dive deeper into these linguistics, I'll link in the podcast transcript to Brendan O'Hare's book, Gaelic Lexicon for Finnegans Wake. And throughout this dance of letters, we'll hear some turns of phrase that match Sir Edward's verbal felicity. My favorite in today's excerpt being, quote, hear keen again and begin again to make sound sense and sense sound kin again. The Wake's analysis of the letter goes on to describe, quote, four shortened ampersands, correlating to the four ampersands that indeed appear in the letter back on page 111. And these four marks will transform briefly, surreally, into a heated card game between the four of them, those recurring old men we've encountered in previous chapters representing the four compass points of Ireland, with Belfast in the north, Cork in the south, Dublin east, and Galway west. We then return to the letter, now compared explicitly to the Book of Kells, with specific reference to the Tunk page of the illuminated Celtic manuscript, of which I'll post an image in the podcast transcript because some of the descriptions of the letter could also apply to the Tunk page. Look, for example, when you're looking at the image for the, quote, 3 squads of candidates in their 3 ballot boxes, close quote, on the Tunk page. But, quote, the tenebrous Tunk page of the Book of Kells, close quote, also points to something darker lurking in the letter, reminding us of the mystery that haunts chapter 5 right up to its very end, i.e., who in fact wrote the letter? Who is behind it? The Tunk page is named for the first and most prominent word on that particular manuscript page, which reads in Latin, Tunc crucifixant cum eo duo latronis. Then they crucified 2 thieves with him, from Matthew 27:38, which some will recognize from the King James Bible, quote, then there were 2 thieves crucified with Jesus, one on the right hand and another on the left, close quote. And others will know from St. Augustine's, quote, do not despair, one of the thieves was saved. Do not presume, one of the thieves was damned, close quote. An elegant formulation so admired by Samuel Beckett that it figures in a little play he wrote called Waiting for Godot. No doubt Beckett, in writing Godot, was also thinking of his hero Joyce's allusions to the Tunk page in The Wake. 2 thieves, one saved, one damned. So something sinister is at play in the letter, and what ostensibly sounded like a full-throated, sunny appraisal of the tea-stained epistle turns out to contain plenty of shade. Keep an ear out, for example, for some of these words and phrases when you hear Richard reading today's excerpt. Quote, "This, for instance, utterly unexpected sinistragyric return to one peculiar sore point in the past," close quote. Quote, "One of them as wrong-headed as his Claudian brother." Quote, "Skelterfuge," suggesting subterfuge. Quote, "The third person is the person darkly spoken of." Quote, "Imperfectible moral blindness." Negativity and suspicions have been creeping in all along, to the point where today's excerpt will leave us hanging with doubts. Could it be that, quote, "a big thick D," close quote, i.e. a man, is behind the letter? A big thick D brings to mind that Monty Python character in The Life of Brian known as Bigus Dickus. Could it be that the letter was written not by Anna Livia Plurabelle, a woman, but by, as the final four words of today's excerpt suggests, quote, "a meandering male fist"? Now it's time for Richard's performance of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, page 119, line 10, to page 123, line 10 of chapter 5. The performance was filmed and recorded at the Thomas Fisher Rare Book Library, University of Toronto, on October 21st, 2024, with a live audience. And since today's excerpt is so alphabetically lively, taking great pleasure in the very letters of the letter, the brief opening music you'll hear, which I wrote for piano trio with Tyler Imond on bass and Janu Isaac on drums, offers a variation on the ABC song.
For, with that farm frow's foul flair for that flay-fell foxfeather, the calamites calamitis calling for calamitous calamitants, who that scrutinizing marvels at those indignant wit-looped lashes, those so prudently bolted or blocked rounds, the touching reminiscence of an incompleted trail or dropped final, around thousand whirligig glorioles prefaced by, alas, now illegible airy plume flights, all Tiberiously embellishing the initials majuscule of ear wicker, the meant-to-be baffling Chrisman Trelithon sign, finally called after some his hesitancy heck, which, moved contra watchwise, represents his title in sigla, as the smaller, fondly called, following a certain change of state of grace of nature, alp or delta, when single, stands for, or tautologically stands beside, the consort. Though, for that matter, since we have heard from Cathay circles how the hen is not merely a tick or two after the first, fifth, fourth of the second, eighth, 12th, Siang Chang, Hong Kong, Sentinel, but yirely the other, and 30th from the 9th from the 20th, our own vulgar 432 or 1132 irrespectively, why not take the former for a village inn, the latter for an upsy-down bridge, a multiplication marking for crossroads ahead, which you like pothook for the family gibbet, their old four-wheedler for the bucker's field, a tea anyway for a tryst someday, and is one side missing for an all-blind alley leading to an Irish plot in the Champ de Mars, not? The steady monology of the interiors, the pardonable confusion for which some blame the cudgel and more blame the soot, but on thanks to which the peas, with their caps awry, are quite as often as not taken for cues with their tails in their, or quite as often as not taking for pews with their tails in their mouths, thence your Christopher Columbus, hence your cat Presbyterians. The curt, witty-watty dashes, never quite just right at the trim, trite truth letter. The sudden spluttered petulance of some capitalized middle. A word as cunningly hidden in its maze of confused drapery as a field mouse in a nest of coloured ribbons. That absurdly bull's-footed bee, declaring with an even plainer dump show than does the mute commoner with us how hard a thing it is to porn a gentler man. And look at this, pre-pronominal fun for all, engraved and retouched and edge-wiped and pudding-padded, very like a whale's egg farced with pemmican, as were its sentence to be nuzzled over a full trillion times forever and a night, till his noddle sink or swim by that ideal reader suffering from an ideal insomnia. All those red-raddled obeli cayenne pepper cast over the text, calling unnecessary attention to errors, omissions, repetitions, and misalignments, that probably local or personal variant maggers for the more generally accepted majesty, which is but a trifle and yet may quietly amuse. Those supercilious-looking criss-cross Greek E's, awkward-like, perched there and here out of date, like sick owls hawked back to Athens. And the GGs, too, Jesuistically formed at first, but afterwards genuflected daggerly towards the Occident. The Ostrogothic cacography affected for certain phrases of Etruscan stable talk. And in short, the learning betrayed at almost every line's end. The head strength, at least 11 men of 32 paltry craft, revealed by a constant labour to make a gimel pass through the eye of an iota. This, for instance, utterly unexpected sinister-gyric return to one peculiar sore point in the past. Those thrown-open W's of an early Mediterranean origin, whether man chooses to damn them agglutinatively, loo, two, blue face, ache, or ilvu, daw, pea, hole, or cant's court, topple fowls, seated with such flop-right down determination, and reminding us ineluctably of nature at her naturalist, while that fretful fidget F, the hornful digamma of your born a barber, rarely heard now, save when falling from the unfashionable ellipsis of some heterosexual, used always in two bold-paced print types. One of them as wrong-headed as his Claudian brother, is it worthwhile interrupting to say, throughout the papyrus as the revise mark, stalks all over the page, broods, sensation-seeking an idea amidst the verbiage, gaunt, stands dejectedly in the dipode-windowed margin, with its basque of bay leaves aflutter about its fork's frogs, paces with a frown, jerking to and fro, flinging phrases there, here, or returns inhibited, with some half-halted suggestion, dragging its shoestring. Curious warning sign before our proto-parens ipsissima verba. A very pure nondescript, by the way. Sometimes a palm-tailed otter, more often the arbutus fruit flower leaf of the cane apple, which paleographers call a leak in the thatch, or the Aaron man imperwis through the hole of his hat, indicating that the words which follow may be taken in any order desired. Hole of Aaron man, the hat through the whispering is hole. Here, keen again, and begin again to make sound sense and sense sound kin again. Those haughty-pitched, dis-dotted H's, easily of the rarest and as droll as most of the jay-walking I's we do plough into have, unconnected, principial, medial, or final, always Jims in the jam, sahib, as pipless as thread worms. The innocent exhibition of those frank yet capricious underlinings, that strange, exotic serpentine, since so properly banished from our scripture. About as freak wing a wetter hand now as to see a right-headed lady white don a cork horse, which in its invincible insolence ever longer more and of more morosity seems to uncoil spirally and swell ascertain lazily before our eyes under pressure of the writer's hand. The ungainly musicianless, so painted in sculpting self-sounder, aha, as black artful as a podatus, and dumbfounder, oh-ho, as uproarious as 10 cannons in skelterfuge. The studious omission of year number and era name from the date. The one and only time when our copyist seems at least to have grasped the beauty of restraint. The lubricitous conjugation of the last with the first, the gypsy mating of a grand stylish grave digging with second best buns. An interpolation. These munchables occur only in the Boother-Browd family of manuscripts. BB, Cod 4, Pap 2, Breck 11, Lund 3, Din 17, Sup 30, full up, 1690. The scoliest has hungrily misheard a dead man's taller as a muffin bell. The four shortened ampersands, under which we can glimpse at and feel for ourselves all across all those rush years the warm, soft, short pants of the quick scribbler. The vocative lapse from which it begins and the accusative hall in which it ends itself. The aphasia of that heroic agony of recalling a once-loved number slipping slip by slipper to a general amnesia of misnomering one's own. Next, those R's. Arr, those R's all bellical. High priest's hieroglyph of Kettle Tom and Odds Bones, wrested red-handedly from our hollowed Rubik pair for truce with booty, Remus pro Romulo, and rudely from the fane's pinnacle, tossed down by Porter to within an aim's ace of their quatrain of ruby jets among those who arse without the temple, nor since Rose Distillery born have quaffed night's fire-filled cup, but jig-jog-jug as day the dice-box throws. Wang! Lion 6 I lead, out with your hearts blue and blashy, and there she for you, sir, wang her, the fine woman, rouge to her lobster locks the Rossi, wang! God no matter has it with his ruddy old villain Rufus. Wait, wang! God, and you're another. He hasn't, for there's my spoiled 5 of Spud's trumps for you. Wang! Right on his pigskins kisser for him. Came a murder, where are you? Then, coming over to the left aisle corner down, the cruciform postscript, from which 3 basia, or shorter and smaller oscula, have been over carefully scraped away, plainly inspiring the tenebrous tonk page of the Book of Kells. And then it need not be lost sight of that there are exactly 3 squads of candidates for the Crucian roles awaiting their turn in the marginal panels of column killer, chugged in their 3 ballot boxes, then set apart for such hanging committees, where 2 was enough for anyone, starting with old Matthew himself, as he with great distinction said then, just as since then, people speaking have fallen into the custom, when speaking to a person, of saying two his company when the third person is the person darkly spoken of. And then that last labia-lingual basium might be read as a suavium, if whoever the embracer then was wrote with a tongue in his, or perhaps her, cheek, as the case may have been then. And the fatal droop, a dwindled slope of the blamed scrawl, a sure sign of imperfectible moral blindness, the too muchness, the far too manyness of all those 4-legged M's, and why he spelled dear God with a big, thick D. Why? Oh, why? Oh, why? The cut and dry, accent-wise form of the semi-final, and 18thly or 24thly, but at least, thank Maurice, lastly, when all is said and done, the Penelopean patience of its last paraph, a colophon of no fewer than 732 strokes tailed by a leaping lasso, Who thus at all this marvelling, but will press on hotly to see the vaulting feminine libido of those interbranching ogam sex up and in sweeps, sternly controlled and easily repersuaded by the uniform matter-of-factness of a meandering male fist.
That was Richard Harte reading pages 119 to 123 from Chapter 5 of Finnegans Wake, recorded live at the Fisher Rare Book Library in Toronto on October 21st, 2024. Join us for episode 28 in a fortnight for the conclusion of Chapter 5. In the meantime, to be sure you don't miss the episode, why not follow or subscribe to this podcast? For more on One Little Goat's Finnegans Wake project, including transcripts of this podcast and the complete films of chapters 1, 2, and 3, visit our website at onelittlegoat.org. And to hear about upcoming performances and screenings, join our mailing list also on our website. One Little Goat Theatre Company is a non-profit, artist-driven, registered charity in the United States and Canada that depends on donations from individuals to make our productions, including this one, possible. If you're able, please make a tax-deductible donation through our website, www.onelittlegoat.org. Finnegans Wake is made possible by Friends of One Little Goat Theatre Company and the Immigrant Support Program of the Government of Ireland. Thank you for your support. And thank you to the artists for this episode. Richard Harte, sound by William Bembridge, stage management by Sandy Becker, directed by yours truly, Adam Seelig. Music arranged and performed on the piano by me, with Tyler Imam on bass and Janu Isaac on drums, recorded at Ghost Town Studio in Toronto. A big thanks to John Shoesmith, Special Collections Librarian, to David Fernandez, Head of Rare Books and Special Collections, and to their colleagues at the Fisher Rare Book Library at the University of Toronto, as well as to our wonderful live audience. Thank you to the team at the Irish Consulate in Toronto, and thank you to production consultants Kathy Murphy and Andrew Moody. Thank you for listening.